Hello, everyone. Today, I'm going to talk by this title that is slightly different from it's printed in the program. Anyway, it's like this. My name is Ariyoshi Kusumi. I know it's difficult for you to pronounce, so Ari is enough. And I think almost all of you don't know me almost at all, so give me a certain time to introduce myself. What he explained about my background was a bit more than how it is. First of all, maybe most important thing for myself is that I'm a single father. So in Japan, it means I have to make a lunchbox every morning for my children. That's really kind of a duty. And I couldn't prepare such things for everyone, so today I carried some Japanese sweets. So just could you just open and take and give this one? It's kind of Japanese taste. My major is somehow about environmental studies in general. I started with desert research, first in the Negev in Israel, and later somewhere around Ariyoshi in Kazakhstan. And since after that, I started to work in my university in Japan called the Chukyo University. And later on, I moved to Hungary, mainly by sabbatical, by family reason. And as he explained now because my major is also about environmental education, I'm organizing study tour to take my students for Philippines. This is the well we made by the donation we collected by students' activity. I forgot to enlarge. This is the well. And another picture I want to emphasize is not about myself, but this one. I hope you understand that this is the next elevator. This is the switch. And can you imagine what this exhibit? It's written 0.09 and 0.12. This is a hotel in Fukushima. You know what happened in Fukushima in 2011? Yeah. This is not a scientific fiction. They are showing how many seabelt. It's a unit of the radiation we have today in front of this hotel. This is enough safe, so don't be afraid. This is the reality in Fukushima. So since such things happened, among many environmental problems I have been dealing with, I started to focus on the radiation exposure or nuclear power plant problems in general. About nuclear power plant problem itself, I will tell you later, but because my daily activity is teaching at the university, although I didn't study pedagogy, but teaching environmental problem is not, how can I say, not easy. I cannot just give information. As it's written, critical thinking is very important. As I think almost all of you are teachers, so it's obvious that I think it's a matter of course that the critical thinking is important. But in case of environmental studies, especially it's important because environmental problem is changing day by day. News, some interpretations, doctrines are often changing. Someone is saying like this, maybe you will say maybe later something, and someone else is saying something totally opposite. And Japanese, maybe you know, Japanese people, Japanese students are relatively obedient, very, maybe I can say naive, and they tend to believe what teachers say. But sometimes one teacher and another teacher are saying something totally opposite. So having such kind of attitude is very important especially to teach such kind of subject. So today I'm going to just present 3 examples I'm doing to teach about, to promote students' ability of critical thinking, and 1 concrete proposal about promoting the ability to judge. The first example is like this. Relating environmental measures and the environmental problems. I ask students to give one example of environmental measures. In Japan, environmental education is somehow common, so everybody knows something. For example, because I'm here in this hotel, maybe I should use this example. Air condition is too strong for me. Yeah, right? In Japan, it's common to say, let's set on 28 degrees. It's warm, it's hot. But to make effort to save energy, we say, let's try 28 degrees in centigrade. It's about 82 in Fahrenheit. It's hot. And once students say such example, later on, I ask students, what's the target environmental problems which is related to this measure? And already I mentioned it. My idealistic solution is that the answer is energy saving. But someone may say global warming. Someone may say just without thinking, just reducing the CO2 emission without knowing the relationship with global warming. Anyway, it can have many different kind of answers. But anyway, after that, I ask students to make flowchart showing the relationship between the measures and the effect, and the measures and the environmental problems. By doing this, I can expect this kind of effect. Especially because we have such tool nowadays. Many students have very much rote, memorized knowledge without having systematic, organic understanding. So they know sometimes very precise, concrete information, which even I don't know, but they don't know how it's related to other things. So by doing this, I can promote students to have more meaningful organic knowledge. This is the one sample I'm doing. Another one is giving lectures on pros and cons of a controversial issue. Controversial issue is again about about judging the necessity of a nuclear power plant in Japan. Fortunately, I have a good friend who has totally opposite opinion from me. So we give lectures by 2 of us, and based on his true feeling that nuclear power plant is necessary, or maybe really not necessary. And both of us are teachers, so naturally we can show to students many contradicted issues. So students are somehow confused, but they are automatically guided to reconstruct their own logic on this issue. That's what I'm used to do. And that's why I'm used to say to students, don't believe what I'm saying, but just accept only convincing logic. Especially Japanese students are very obedient. They are very surprised that the teacher is saying such things. But I think if it's simple mathematics, 1 plus 1 is equal to 2, no one believes that this is right or wrong. Everybody is convinced that its answer should be 2. If someone says 3, it's completely wrong, as long as we are talking about normal mathematics. But once something is complicated, if teacher is speaking very confidently in front of students, and this is like this, this is like this, this is like this, some students just tend to believe without really understanding the logic. This is what I'm asking students not to do. So another example is also example to emphasize this kind of message. I give lectures with plausible mistakes or something like mistake. For example, now all the examples are especially about global warming, because in last decade, one of the most treasured, most important environmental problem seemed global warming, at least in Japan. So I was used to teach about it. For example, I teach about the past temperature change trends over 160,000 years. And we have this kind of graph. The human experienced, I think, about 12 degrees of the temperature change in centigrade. And IPCC is now forecasting that by the end of this century, we will have a maximum 4.8 degree temperature rise. And I ask students, so human, we are not Neanderthal, Homo sapiens, Homo sapiens experienced 12 degrees of temperature change. So 4.8 degrees, maybe nothing. But why do we have to care such things so seriously? I ask such students. In Japan, even since students are in a kindergarten, they are strongly educated that they should not emit CO2 unnecessarily. They are learning lots of countermeasures. They know what to do. They should not do certain things, such kind of things, but they don't know why. They are blindly believing. So I'm asking students if it's really necessary. And because they are, again, very, very obedient, once I say, maybe it's not so important, some of the students say, yes, it's not important. but if in such case, I start to say something opposite again. And by promoting this kind of things, I promote students to be very critical. This is somehow, I think I'm succeeding somehow. But anyway, these are just samples, and I don't have, how can I say, established universal educational method to teach, to promote critical thinking. But about promoting the ability to judge, I made one framework. That's what I'm going to present now, and the details will be explained tomorrow, or already explained in one paper. The framework is composed of these 5 steps. That I'm going to explain later. Just now, briefly speaking, its judgment scheme is like this. I think this is actually easy. I think I think some of you are doing very often, maybe consciously, maybe unconsciously. But when I asked my student if someone is doing such things, I think more than 60% of students are not doing. My university is a bit better than average university in Japan. And 60% of students are not doing, making a decision systematically, just intuitionally, they are just making a decision. That's why I think this way works somehow. The idea is very simple, that we should make alternative for decision. Alternative one, let's say 1, 2, 3. Maybe it can be 1, 2, or maybe it can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It depends. And judgment should be done usually by different perspectives. Perspective 1, 2, 3, maybe many more. And by every perspective, we choose which is the first, which is the second, which is the third. And aggregating all, we can have a comprehensive judgment. This is the basic idea. It's easy, but it might be like Columbus' egg. I don't think I learned this in school and as a way of making a decision. And based on this, I made concrete teaching material about the judging the necessity of nuclear power in Japan. If anyone wants to read, I can show you, but unfortunately it's only in Japanese. Anyway.
Are you for or against
it? I have my opinion, but later we can talk serious, honestly. But in the inside of the classroom, anyway, in the classroom, always I pretend, I don't say my opinion. I'm trying to be neutral on purpose. And this book is written also like that. About this book, already here in March, I gave a presentation and it's already printed. And also tomorrow, it's okay, I prefer like this. And tomorrow I will explain a little bit again from 10 o'clock in one room. So if someone is interested, please come to listen. But this basic scheme became like this concretely in this book, in teaching material. I made a concrete alternative as a circle or X. Sorry, this is the Asian system. You may not know anything. Circle is like a positive. We should use nuclear power. Something like X is negative. We should never use nuclear power. Triangle is somehow indifferent in the middle. That's common in Asia, I think, right? I think in your country also, maybe. Yeah. And anyway, depending on perspective, we have anyway only two choices, two alternatives, like this or like this. And from every perspectives, students are guided to choose one of them. And after making all, anyway, you have each result. And having each result, students are guided to 3 patterns. If you don't have any X, it's easy. If you don't have any circle, it's easy. If you have both, it's complicated. And I ask certain things, but I omit now. But if qualitative judgment is difficult, I supply a kind of appendix. It's a quantitative assessment system to support comprehensive assessment. It's based on the paired comparison between 2 different perspectives. Let's say perspective 1 and the perspective 4. I ask which factor is more important. And students are asked to choose one of this or this or this or this and this. Once students do like this to all the perspectives, anyway, students are guided to have conclusion that you are, even if you are indifferent in the beginning, or even if you have a prejudice in the beginning, as far as you follow this system, anyway, you will be guided to have your own real decision. Forgetting about this concrete sample, now I'm talking about general framework itself. I think this framework is useful. Actually, I made a questionnaire survey. That's what I'm going to present tomorrow. But anyway, this is very easy to apply for relatively easy problem. But maybe it's a matter of course that easy problem, maybe we don't need such system. You can make a decision easily. So for complicated problem, we need a certain kind of system like this framework. But to use this framework, teacher should be prepared well to use, especially for the step 1 and for step 3. I didn't explain step 1 and step 3. Now, once again, now I'm going to explain. The step 1 is designing alternatives to judge. Actually, in the reality, even let's say just talking about the necessity of a nuclear power plant, it's not easy that we want to use. No, we don't want to use. It's not so simple. We have something in the middle. For example, I don't want to use, but at least let's complete using the nuclear power plants which had already built, so which still has lifetime, let's use. This is somehow in the middle. We have different kind of such kind of alternatives. And if we make too many different kind of alternatives, we can have a precise system, but it will become difficult. So this is like art. Teacher should make a limited amount of the alternatives. This is a bit difficult. This is the step which teacher should do. And next, step 2 and step 3, we have to again make perspectives. First, we should list up the potential perspectives. That's easy. Just we should make a list. But again, if someone is eager just to say, we can have too many lists of potential perspectives. So we should organize and categorize only to minimum amount of perspectives. So this is like, again, like art. It's relatively difficult. And to do this kind of things, you have to be familiar with the issue. Teacher should be familiar with the issue. This is the problem of this framework. But if you are a teacher of the subject, I believe you must be able to. And the step 5 are what I said already, that you judge from each perspective and you make comprehensive judgment. Already, as it is well known, rationality has limitation. So, for example, to make your own house, you have too many choices, alternatives. So I don't think this framework works. Of course, applicability of this framework is limited because rationality has a limitation. But at least students, those who had no idea to have this kind of idea, maybe for such people, I believe this framework is useful. As this is such a unusual opportunity for me to be maybe friend of you, if anyone is interested, I would like to have such kind of cooperative research with maybe you or maybe your colleagues or anyone, making teaching material like this, maybe in your language, about your country. Usually, I think at least in Japan, and my Russian friend said also in Russia, nuclear power issue is very political and sensitive, even in states, maybe. So such political situation is included and it's difficult. Also making teaching material about any other subject based on this framework. And actually this is what I want most, that in Asia or in Japan, conventional education was just giving knowledge, just giving information, just to memorize. And nowadays, Ministry of Government and Ministry of Education in Japan started to say that we should educate thinking ability of the student. And as far as I know, in Western society, I think that's very common, that since you are a child, in your childhood, you are educated to think well. No? So if you have more organized system or something, and if you can tell me, that's a great help for me. And maybe, anyway, depending on culture, depending on circumstances, you have a different way. I hope to exchange that kind of knowledge. I think I'm in time.
Thank you, Eric.
Okay, thank you.